This is for all of our fallen brothers and sisters on Vernon Wells. That's right, after a valiant effort and many casualties on both sides, VW is back in the hands of the automatons. Welcome to the channel. This is LtBuzzLitebeer, and man, does it feel good to be back. Now, I won't bore you with the details, but it boiled down to IRL stuffs taking priority over gaming stuffs, and I know that many of you know that one all too well. Anyways, we've got a quick SONY backtrack on tap for today, the rest of the major order, and the final push to complete the DSS. Warhammer in this video. Yes, your ears did not deceive you, and we've even got more from the community here as well. Now, as always, your continued and incredible support is continually on display. Thank you so much for sticking around and just tuning in. In case you haven't already, take a moment to hit subscribe, as it's free and it really helps out the channel get noticed in the far corners of YouTube. And while you're at it, ring that notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. And with that, let's get stuck into all the latest from Helldivers. Kicking it all off for today is the world-famous 30-second Superstore Roundup. And with this rotation, we've got the light gunner body armor with extra padding, making it on par with medium armor, but with light armor speed and stamina regen. There's also the matching light gunner helmet, the FS61 Dreadnought helmet, and the Dreadnought heavy body armor with servo-assisted for 30% increased yeet range, and it also gives you plus 50% limb health. Now, as always, super creds are the only form of currency in the shop. Over to the galactic table, and for some reason, I just keep getting this incoming message alert from Super Earth, despite already participating in this stage of the major order. So, who knows? There must be a glitch in the matrix. It's the standard Clowrell announcement: protect the Deep Mantle Forge complex. If it's lost, it will put a delay on the construction of the DSS messages. You get the picture. But the long and short of this is that we've now defended Clowrell once, which I was happy to be a part of last night, giving us one of 3 successful defenses with 2 days to go in this current major order. Vernon Wells, potentially our second defense, did not go well, and the bots absolutely laid a beatdown on the divers involved in that campaign. What now? Well, it's going to come down to our forces defending against 2 more bot attacks, and we should be good to go with the space station construction. And while we're over here, today's daily or personal order is to complete 6 secondary objectives, which is super straightforward. Now, once done, pocket those 15 medals, and like always, this task is shared across the entire squad. Over to Liberty Day we go, and I've been seeing a lot of questions, threads, discussions, you name it. And by the way, I'm not going to run through any of the leaks right now, so no spoilers here, don't worry. But it is, of course, confirmed to be coming to the game on October 26th. But one of the questions I have seen is people asking why it is scheduled for October 26th. Why is it called Liberty Day? And that's because Starship Troopers was originally published on October 26th, 1959. So now you know. Another cool reference and homage to some of Helldivers' inspiration material. Watch out, SONY is back. Well, not really, because they've never technically gone away, but PC players were recently met with this image and prompt over on Steam, and naturally, when we saw Helldivers 2, when we saw EULA, which stands for End User Licensing Agreement, and when we saw PlayStation all lumped together, we naturally started suiting up for another campaign over on the SONY front, but it wasn't to be. And this was another item I received more than a few times via DM, but it was little more than Steam adjusting the terminology in their EULA, which, by the way, does usher in some major changes for us gamers, and mostly positives here as well. But in terms of the changes, Twinbeard did respond to this one over in the Discord, saying, there's no change. A law changed in California, USA, so the publishers who distribute games on Steam have to adjust some paragraphs to clarify that you don't own a physical copy of the game you play on Steam per se, but rather a license to play them. And I just hear Ubisoft alarm bells ringing in the back of my head. We need to get comfortable with not owning our games. How did that turn out for you, Ubisoft? Anyways, I digress. In other words, nothing new and nothing specific for us, just some amended red tape that we've clicked through hundreds of times before. Okay, brothers, it's time to talk about glory, honor, and brotherhood. I don't know, that sounded better in the back of my head, especially when I was scripting it, but who cares, right? Because we are talking Space Marine 2, and this post from GameGrin. What Space Marine 2 can learn from Helldivers 2. During his brief 4 or 5 paragraphs here, Joshua Render of GameGrin goes on to outline his argument for what SM2 needs to watch out for and learn from Helldivers 2. Quote, "We are in an interesting situation at the moment where we actually look at another game to see the potholes that Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 needs to watch out for. I am talking about Helldivers 2, another game that launched spectacularly. However, if you have been following the news, you would have noticed that Helldivers 2 has been losing players as of late. This is due to several issues, one of which is the issues with PSN accounts on PC, many of which have been fixed in the recent patch, but the damage has been done." There's also mentions here of what is expected and incoming for Space Marine 2, their content roadmap, and he also speaks to operations, and that games like this need a constant injection of new content to keep players invested. Basically, players get burned out playing the same 6 operations over and over again, which, by the way, there is a new operation launching later this month, along with a full 4K texture pack for PC, both free, and both I cannot wait to try out for myself. But what about Saber Interactive, and what can they learn from Helldivers 2? Well, here it all comes. Quote, "However, while new content and enemies are great, there is one area that Saber needs to focus on for the game: balancing. One of the biggest issues with Helldivers 2 is the constant debuffs on guns." I'm just going to stop here and interject. I'd actually say the biggest issue with Helldivers 2 was with the balancing and with the debuffs. That and the constant meddling simply for the sake of meddling. Anyways, to continue on, essentially making them weaker and weaker. We all remember the weirdness of Helldivers nerfing flame weapons only to then release a fire-based warbond. I remember trying to play the game before the major rehaul, and it just wasn't fun. Now, I should specify that balancing is incredibly difficult, especially in such a big game, so I don't blame the developers of Helldivers 2. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 needs to be careful with its balancing, mostly because it's in a relatively good place at the moment. While the weapons have clear winners and losers, they're still fun to play with, despite the melee weapon profiles being terribly explained. This is good because we want to use all the weapons, but overcorrecting leads to players just using the same weapons forever. Thankfully, it isn't so bad in PvE, so you can usually get away with using whatever weapons you want with no real issue. But I worry about the state of PvP. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 needs to make sure it doesn't overcorrect and just make the game unfun to play. Renders finishes up with this. He says, "It seems that Saber is aware of this risk, as their recent update has fixed a lot of issues, some of which we weren't even aware of. For instance, they realized that fighting Chaos wasn't really fun as fighting Tyranids, and seem to have fixed that issue with fewer enemy spawns for the Chaos troops. Only time will tell if this works or if it hasn't solved the issue at all. They have also added a sparring pit for players to have mock fights with each other, which is an entertaining premise. It seems like people are enjoying the game still, and the player base has remained relatively constant." Now, I really wanted to include this article because I know a lot of you have both of these games in your library, and there's quite a bit of cross-population between Helldivers and Space Marine 2. And by the way, I'd love to get your feedback on the delivery of this one. Arrowhead certainly has stumbled since launch. I mean, we've all seen it. Odd balancing choices and the Giga Nerf concept pushed the game to basically historically low player counts, which has since rebounded somewhat since the Buff Diver update. Taking a look over at Saber, though, and I've also posted limited content on this game as well, but they seem to be very proactive in terms of speedy changes and community involvement. Zongors are a pain in the ass, especially versus the Assault class. Handled. Certain weapons need a tweak. Handled. Mostly. Adding in features, not always well done, by the way. See their first try of adding in ultra-wide support, but it was then patched to work properly. So I guess we could move that over to the header of handled. But again, interesting topic here. Could Saber fall down the same spreadsheet balancing rabbit hole that Arrowhead did? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, brothers. Send me a vox. The Emperor protects. All right, enough of the voices, and let's quickly jump over to Reddit for some artwork about the reinforced Strider. And by the way, if you hit the bots on Super Helldive difficulty, this is all you see when it comes to the Strider enemy types. So the comparison here is to that of the Annihilator tank, which has a clear glowing weak spot on the back of the turret, red flash on the turret to telegraph that one-shot attack, and it blows up on death, giving clear feedback. And they contrast that to what they call the awful design of this reinforced Strider. 0 telegraphs for one-shot attack. Also can shoot rockets without the pods. I've seen that one, by the way. No feedback on death. It just slowly goes limp. No indication there is a weak spot. Faster than Berserkers. And by the way, it also has, again, that one-shot attack. And I don't have much to add on this, by the way, other than I still get blown or sucked forward out from behind cover by this Strider, and although it doesn't kill me that often, when it does pull me out of cover, it's the other 3,000 bot laser guns that quickly do kill me. I like new enemy types. I mean, it keeps the battles interesting, but like I said, this is all you see on those higher difficulties versus the bots. And when you get a pack of like 5 or 6 of these things, it becomes a chore to deal with them. Now, as far as changes that I would suggest to the studio, I mean, first off, let's get a clear weak spot indicator on their frames, some sort of explosion to show that these things are destroyed. And by the way, here's a thought, maybe limit how many of these things can be on the field at once. Maybe for every 10 total Striders you see, 8 are the standard variant, along with maybe 2 of these reinforced types. You know, something like that. A bit of breaking news here for you as well. As I was recording this video, we got yet another player feedback survey. Link in the video description to this one. And full disclaimer, I don't know how long they'll keep this survey open. They tend to leave these open for just a very short period of time. But to be honest with you, this one was very basic. It asks you how you would rate your overall player experience this past week with Helldivers 2, and then things you are currently enjoying about the game and things you are not. Anyways, I did my part for democracy and I filled it out, and you can too with the link. Let's finish it up today with your top 3 comments from my last Helldivers upload. And as always, if you want a shot at making it into the top 3, you need to spend a few seconds on this video by dropping me a comment. And who knows, it might just get upvoted enough to make it into the next countdown. Starting it off in the top spot is Ugrana7419, who has an interesting one here. They say, honestly, heavy armor probably just needs a complete overhaul with passives unique to that class of armor. As it stands right now, it's really hard to find any justification to use it. So, speaking to unique passives, I would probably tend to disagree with that. I like the passives that are in the game right now. I just think that heavy armor deserves to receive 100% resistance to whatever elemental effect it's designed to resist. That is the draw to using it, because when you give up all that stamina and you give up all that health regen just so you can have a little bit more durability, it needs a trade-off, and that trade-off could be 100% resistance to arc effects, or maybe to fire, or to the new gas and the toxic clouds. That would be the draw to using heavy armor. Coming to you in second place is Pope Platinum Beats, who says, Stalker sound cues are much louder now. I did notice that, and this is in reference to how the developers had gone in and done some major tuning and rebalancing to the sound design and the enemy sound cues within the game. So yes, I can definitely confirm Stalker sound cues are much louder now, and you definitely can, I guess, cue in and see and hear them coming at a much greater range now, which is definitely appreciated. And congrats, Pope Platinum Beats, on taking the second spot here. And bringing up the caboose in this countdown, in the 3 spot is Mick Layton 1601 with an interesting suggestion here. If Arrowhead wants to focus on team play, then how about making the gas explosive when exposed to fire? I do like that. One diver goes in with the chemical agent, another with the flamethrower, and just wreak havoc. Or here's another suggestion. How about just one player is able to do it? They bring down the gas cloud, they run in with the special armor and the flamethrower, and just turn into a one-man army. I would actually prefer that over counting on a teammate to do it for me. But definitely an interesting suggestion there, and congrats, Mick Layton, on taking the 3 spot. And there you go. Liberty Day is coming. Big hopes for that one. We've got the DSS, which is still a work in progress. And if you've got time, by the way, try to log in and put in a campaign or two to help out the cause. And if you're wanting help or needing squad support, you can always join my Discord server. Link in the video description. Remember to hit subscribe and to ring that notifications bell to receive my latest upload alerts. All my socials, including links to all of today's sources, can be found in the video description. A massive and heartfelt thank you again to the 245,000 of you legends from across the planet who have taken the plunge, you've hit subscribe, and you tune in daily to support me and my channel. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.